1904. It was the year of the dragon, an auspicious time to be born because, according to Chinese astrology, dragon babies were believed to be gifted with the power and luck to become great achievers and leaders. Katherine Chong was born in the province of Canton, China, in Taiheng, a countryside village located in Yangping County. Fittingly, Katherine's family bestowed her with a Chinese name, Sui Fen, meaning courage and long life. As luck would have it, the previous year, on December 17, 1903, the Wright brothers became the fathers of modern aviation when they flew the first powered aircraft over Kitty Hawk. Several years later, on September 22, 1909, Yangping native son Feng Yu, inspired by the Wright brothers, became the first Chinese man to fly in America and the first aviator of any nationality to fly in California in a biplane that he built in Oakland, California.
I was born in China, Canton, China. In Canton, the government tried to start a flying school. The girls tried to get in there, but they wouldn't allow girls. I thought it over. I said, well, while I'm over here, I could do anything I want. Why shouldn't I do it? I tried. Today, they got all kind of instruments, but we don't have any. When I'm doing the flying, I'm not even scared of anything. They said women supposed to be in the kitchen. But they don't say in front of me. Never.
我記得佢嗰句寫俾我哋嗰個名言啊，就國家興亡，匹夫有責。即係呢種我哋第一屆畢業生培養出嚟，喺抗戰時間嗰方面起咗個作用，對我哋而家嘅下一代咁傳落嚟，作為培養出嘅人，佢真係一代一代國家嘅棟梁嚟嘅。
After graduating from the girls' school, Katherine was granted a visa to study in the United States. According to a document from the American Consulate General dated March 15, 1921, arrangements were made for her to study at the California College Bible School Academy in Los Angeles, California. Katherine listed an uncle, Cheung of the Occidental Produce Company, as her reference in the United States. On March 30th, 1921, Katherine departed for San Francisco from Hong Kong aboard the SS Nanking, leaving behind her mother, brother, and family.
She was a fun-loving mother. She was a very good mom. Just loved being in the air. She said it felt like it was so free just to be up there. And she did all the stunts at the air show. We did go up in the plane. My sister and I, it was like an open cockpit, and we took our safety belts off and sit up in the air. Our hair was standing straight up, and Mom got upset and took us down. Here she is.
She's a tomboy.
Was she really?
Yeah.
She's a tomboy.
Tomboy.
Katherine Chong, hometown hero.
Is there coffee for her?
If she wanted. See, now it works.
It was the roaring 20s, the Prohibition era, and the beginning of the Jazz Age. The women's suffrage movement had led to the passing of the 19th Amendment, giving women the right to vote. And meanwhile, flappers were redefining young women's styles and attitudes. Katherine had arrived in America during a tumultuous but exciting time of social change. However, many Chinese faced limited opportunities outside their neighborhoods due to race and gender barriers. With money earned from the produce business, her dad bought her a car and taught her to drive on a dusty road next to Dicer Airfield near Western and 94th Street in Los Angeles. As the story goes, after their driving lessons were over, they would park and watch planes take off and land.
Where were you learning to drive?
I learned it at the next to the airport in Los Angeles.
And where was this airport?
Dicer Airport.
Dicer?
That's where I take my lesson.
And where was that located?
74 in Western.
Oh, in Western Avenue. It's not there anymore.
No, not anymore.
So you were learning to drive in a vacant field next to Dicer Airport. And what did you think when you saw the airplanes? Had you seen airplanes in China?
No, never heard of it.
And what did you think when you were learning to drive and watching these airplanes taking off?
Well, when they're taking up and down, my father knew Cheung, he's a Chinese commander back in China.
Mm-hmm.
So he's kidding me. He said, if you take up flying, maybe someday you go back as a girl commander, Air Force commander. I said, Daddy, you're just dreaming. And we laughed, we forgot all about it.
How did you get started?
Until one of a friend, family friend, and he had his license, and he invited me to take a ride with him. And I just love it. And then we talked about it, and he said, well, maybe you take up flying, and then we go back to China and open a school. I said, that's a good idea. When I come back, I talked to my father. He said, no,
What did your mother say?
My mother just looked at my father. He says, no, nothing to it. And then we talk. Finally, he said, okay.
He gave in to you.
He gave in to me. And my mother says, okay.
And what about your husband?
My husband? Was he married?
Yes, you were married.
Yeah, we
two
married.
girls.
He said, okay. And he support me. Oh, he work hard and support me. And he very proud of me. He never worried. Even I come home late, he never said anything.
Well, how did you get started flying? Who was your instructor?
I start with the Bill Gates
At Dreiser Airport.
Dreiser Airport.
And roughly September of 1931?
Yeah.
And how often did you fly?
Every morning, I went up there for half an hour. Never missed one day. Half an hour every day.
And how did you feel when you were taking these lessons?
Oh, I feel great. I love it.
Tell me about the solo.
Well, when I had 12 and a half hours, and then I went out there that morning. He just up with me just one landing, and he got out the airplane. He said, "You're on your own now." I said, "Oh no." He said, "Yeah, you're ready, but I don't want to go." I said, I begged him. I said, "Please go up with me once more." He said, "No, you're on your own." He got out and walked away. So, but that's in the back of the airport, the hangar. 6 great big policemen there. They said, "Oh boy, that Chinese doctor solo now." I don't know what to do. I get more nervous. And they're just like that. What I do, I look at Bill Gates, but he's far away from me. So I said, well, I sat there for a few seconds. I said, well, if I die, I die. So I just took off. I took around and landed. Perfect landing. The policeman, hooray! She really good, make a perfect landing. That's all.
She represented, to me, the social awakening of Chinese women in the 1930s, that they were leaving their homes and pursuing male-dominated occupations. I think there were a number of factors that helped her to fulfill her dream of flying. First of all, she was educated at the True Light Missionary School for Girls in Canton, where she learned to speak English and also received a westernized education and learned about democracy and women's rights. And then I think she had very supportive parents who indulged her interest in flying. They paid for her flying lessons, which at the time was $20 for half an hour, and in today's time would be about $300 for half an hour of flying lessons. And third of all, I think she was answering a call from China for Chinese Americans to learn to fly in order to go back to China and help fight the Japanese in the Air Force. She said herself, she said, "I don't want to stay in the kitchen like most women were expected to do at the time. I wanted a life full of adventure," and she found that in flying.
Tell us about this picture.
This is the Chinese
Aeronautics
school, Los Angeles.
And I see there's a girl there. Is that you?
Yeah, this is me right there. And the other woman, she's a rich woman. She's supporting the group.
She wasn't a pilot.
No.
So you were the only girl with all these boys.
Right.
And how did they treat you?
Well, treat me just like ordinary.
Just like one of the boys.
One of the boys.
There were these oral histories that were taken of women who were here during the early days in Chinatown and the surrounding area of Los Angeles. They told their stories, and we compiled it and put it into a book that is a narrative of their lives. Well, one of the most extraordinary persons that I wrote about in the book was Katherine Chong. They called her the Chinese Amelia Earhart. In fact, Amelia Earhart and her were acquaintances. She was the most outstanding pilot of her time, a woman pilot. And it's even more extraordinary considering the fact that she was an immigrant from China. Now, most Chinese American women were told to be seen but not heard, were thought to be invisible. But Katherine Chong didn't pay attention to any of it. Katherine Chong was also affected by the Chinese Exclusion Act. Everybody was, up until 1943 when it was repealed. And that would mean, therefore, that she could never become a naturalized citizen. No matter what, she was here for many, many decades. She could not vote, that she could not get other relatives to immigrate. And basically, immigrants here had to carry papers on them at all times saying that they were legally here. And if not, then they could be deported, even if they had the legal right to be here. And they could not testify for themselves in court. Only a white person could testify on their behalf. This was actually all in the law. So it was definitely intended to make Chinese Americans second-class citizens in this country. And that's why Katherine's achievements are even more extraordinary. She had that can-do spirit, and she wasn't going to let anything stop her from becoming one of the most outstanding women pilots of her time.
From the very beginning, the 99s were a very diverse group. The only requirement to join the 99s was to be a woman pilot. Katherine Chong, the first Chinese-American woman pilot, joined the 99s in 1932. They saw no boundaries with who could fly despite their background or their ethnic background.
Everybody that flew an airplane back in the 20s and the 30s, they were barnstormers. They were way ahead of their time. They were wild and crazy. They were cutting edge people. They were not church mice. They were people who actually wanted to go out and see what these airplanes would do. And wing walkers, they had women standing out on these airplanes, hanging onto a wing in a dress. It was pretty amazing what these people were willing to do in the early years, and pretty scary if you think about it when you look at all the safety things that we have evolved into now. But the pioneers of aerobatics were the wild and crazy people that we all would love to be. In the early days, mostly around World War I, which is the time when aerobatics was probably first discovered. I don't recall exactly who discovered the first loop or the first roll, but during World War I, we had airplanes, and when you're fighting the enemy in an airplane in the sky, the guy who gets behind you is the guy who's going to kill you. So, of course, the idea is that as you're flying around, you want to get behind the guy that you're trying to chase out of the sky. So in order to do that, these pilots took these airplanes and they actually turned them, they pulled them up, and they moved them around trying to maneuver in the sky quickly. And this is how they discovered that an airplane could actually turn a different direction by pulling straight up and going straight back. They needed to turn around quickly. And so these aerobatic maneuvers were pretty much discovered during World War I. The first maneuvers that were discovered is what we call an Immelman. Pull straight up, get over the top, right about here, and then roll the airplane right side up, and now you're flying the other direction. During a dogfight, you want to get behind the guy that you're trying to shoot. The quickest way to get behind the guy would be to turn around 180 degrees immediately, swing back around and get behind him. So that gave birth to probably a loop, because once you get here, you're halfway through a loop. If you, from here, you just keep pulling and you pull, and now you've done a loop all the way around. One of the biggest difficulties that the early pilots had with these airplanes as they were evolving, until they had an inverted fuel and oil system, if the pilot was to take the airplane and pull hard and turn around, as soon as he got upside down, the engine would quit because it stopped getting gas. So they had to turn around quickly, get the airplane back right side up again so that the fuel would flow into the engine, or the engine won't restart. And you can't fly without an engine turning. So the difficulty was in figuring out how quickly they could turn, how quickly they could recover, and how long would it take for the fuel to actually get back into the engine. So once they figured out how many seconds they had, they would figure out how to turn these airplanes around, upside down, roll them, whatever they did. And they knew they only had so many seconds of flying before they had to get level again so that the fuel would go into the engine.
The national air races, particularly 1936, was when Katherine came to our town. She had learned to fly around here in small airports, but she was in the Ruth Chatterton Derby, and they flew in the day before the national air races were to start here at LAX in 1936. Great pilot, had to be courageous. I met her when we had a plaque put in on Sepulveda Boulevard, and she was honored at one of our fundraisers. Wonderful woman and just a treasure for the country.
Chinese Aviatrix has close call. San Angelo, Texas, August 17th. Miss Katherine Chong, 27 years of age, of Los Angeles, one of the 2 Chinese women pilots in the United States, narrowly missed cracking up last night at Texan, 90 miles west of here, as she landed her biplane on the Texan field by the light of a gas torch. The gasoline supply was exhausted. The Aviatrix was accompanied by her mechanic, D.F. Oxley of Los Angeles, and they barely missed telephone wires in a deep ditch at the north end of the field. The pair lost their course east of Monahans.
one of the boys took it up, and he cracked out, and the boy unconscious in the hospital for 2 weeks, and he died. And also, my father was sick. He heard about that, and he was very sick, and he asked me to on his bedside and swear to him that I have to stop flying. I have to take care of my mother.
Would you say that all young girls should fly?
All young girls, they want to fly, but they can't afford it, that's it.
But do you think they should go ahead and keep flying?
I wish they would. I wish the Chinese girl would continue doing what I'm doing. And even my daughter, I wish they take up flying again. Flying.
Because flying was an important part of your life.
But I can't make them.
But you're proud of what you've accomplished.
Yeah. Very. Except I feel sorry I didn't get a chance at my airplane back to China and open the school.
That was a dream.
That was a dream.
Up in the Clouds is our 2-minute short animated film, and I had the honor of playing or portraying the voice of the young teenage Katherine Chong. Katherine, as a teenager, it was really fun to kind of think about what this fun, energetic, daring, bold, sassy kind of teenager would be like, and what she would sound like, and what she'd be thinking. And I was thinking about just those of us who have dreams and have a passion of what we want to do in life. Sometimes there's this aha moment where you're like, oh, I want to do that, or I can do that, or I can see myself doing that. And for her, this was that moment in her life where she discovered that flying was that thing, that dream or that adventure that she wanted for herself. In Up in the Clouds, it's focused on Katherine with her dad in the car. She had asked him to teach her how to drive next to an airfield, and he obliged. So I can just imagine her driving on that road next to the airfield, watching the planes taking off and landing and flying so low, and driving, maybe like trying to be as fast as the planes are going, and that whoosh of the wind and the sound of the engines and the feeling of, oh, yes, this is amazing, and I'm gonna do that. I want to do that.
Whoa. Watch the road!
It's okay, Pop. I know what I'm doing. Wow. I want to do that.
Slow down. You're driving too fast. Pull over now. Stop the car.
But, Papa!
Slow down, slow down, slow down. You're driving too fast. 喂，傻女，你開得太快啦，慢啲啊 ！Pull over now. Stop the car. 停車。
I'm sorry. I won't do it again.
No more excuses. How can you drive a car when your head is up in the clouds? If you want to fly, then you should take flying lessons.
Will you help me? Pay for my flying lessons?
Only after you have earned your driver's license and finished music school.
It's a deal.
You're driving too fast. Slow down.
I was so astounded to find out about Katherine because there's something in being Chinese that just makes you brave.
Look, I thought you said you wanted to learn to fly. Now, do you or don't you?
Yes, I do.
All right. Let's go.
Katherine's story is really a classic triumph over adversity story. And there's no better way to illustrate that than soaring over the clouds. We kind of mixed in a little more drama than probably Katherine had in her life. We made Dad ran a restaurant. He's working his fingers to the bone. He's trying to make ends meet. Fei Jing was our character's name. So Fei Jing works in the restaurant, and, you know, Dad doesn't want her, you know, he wants her attention on the restaurant because he's just trying to survive.
I need the afternoon off, Papa.
Now, what would you do with your time off? Probably wish you were back here working again, that's all. I just don't know what to do with you. You're so restless lately. All right. Take the afternoon off, but be sure to come back here and work twice as hard now.
I will. Thank you, Papa.
And Fei Jing gets this crazy idea she wants to fly after seeing a friend's cousin's airplane.
Okay, who wants to go up?
I'll go.
A lot of it, I think, is cultural. But then a lot of it is, at the time, it was the 30s, and women weren't supposed to do that, and especially Chinese women.
Will you concentrate? Just concentrate. Why are you talking about airplanes?
I was out on the airfield today with Sue. And I rode with her cousin in his new plane.
Why would you do something like that? You should talk to me before you do something so foolish. Now concentrate on your work and quit thinking about airplanes.
From what I read, her father was very supportive of her flying. And for the purpose of drama, there had to be a little bit more of a conflict in the story. We made a short film, so there had to be a little bit more conflict. So we had the dad be antagonistic towards her desire to fly, partly because he wanted her to take over the restaurant.
I want to become a pilot.
That's ridiculous. Whatever gave you that idea in your head?
But Papa, this is important to me. I've saved up some money. It's not going to take me that long to learn.
What money?
I saved some money from my tips.
This money should go for your education. I'll save it for you. And quit thinking about flying. Now, you're going to have enough to do in the restaurant, learning the trade, before I retire.
But Papa, I don't want to work in the restaurant all my life. I've decided I want to take flying lessons.
You decided? There's no such thing. I don't want to talk about it anymore.
But Papa, I can still help you work in the restaurant. I only need a couple of hours a week, that's all.
That's enough, Fei Jing. You will stay in the restaurant and help me full time. Do you understand?
Why must I do everything for you? That's all you ever want me to do is to work for you. You tell me that I'm selfish, but you're
No more talk about flying.
That was the drama that we created. And in the end, he turns and he decides, because she has such a fierce determination, then he turns in the end and he gives her the money for the flying lessons.
Papa, I'm your daughter, but I'm not your little girl anymore. I want to do this. I need to do this. I understand your position, but I wish you'd understand mine. That's all I ask.
I think that a lot of times when you put yourself in somebody else's vantage point, then you feel the sensations. It's so easy for us to judge, to look. And I mean, if my mother was watching a documentary about Katherine, she would say, oh, there's saga, why would she do something like that? But when you're having to reenact as an actor what somebody goes through, you're seeing kind of from a bird's eye view what that person's life is like. And that's part of the joy and the fascination of being an actor, is that you get to see that perspective so that you can feel what somebody might have gone through. I can't imagine what it was like for her. I mean, I was just reenacting her story. There was an accidental thing that happened when the guy who was playing the pilot, when he was turning to me, he happened to hit my breast. When he just moved his hand, he hit my breast. And the director said, I don't know if that was intentional. It was kind of on the line. It looked like it might have been intentional, whatever. And that made me think, for Katherine in the 30s, in this male-dominated field, she must have been harassed. Just for the fun of it, just for the enjoyment, just for the sport of it, she must have been harassed. And I thought, wow, what was that like? It's different from me. Even then, when I did the film, it was 1980. But for her in the 30s, working in this, training in this male-dominated field, and then working in this male-dominated field that was very, very chauvinistic, I can't imagine what that was like. And then that added to my appreciation of what she might have gone through during that time. It can't be easy.
The story we made in school, and this story itself, is not your typical story that people are used to of Asian Americans, which is actually another good reason it's such a good story, because it's about a person. It's not about a stereotype or what people think they are. It's just a woman trying to meet her dreams.
Did you meet other Chinese women pilots while you were?
No, I never did.
So you were pretty unique.
I never meet anybody. But and then later on, they saw my name in a picture. Somebody said, "You're not the first Chinese girl taken flying lessons." I said, "I don't know anybody," but they told me it was in San Francisco. I don't know who they are.
Well, I think what it is that you were the first Chinese-born woman to get a
But
US.
the Chinese people, they never said that.
They never said that.
No, they never said that. They just said Katherine Chong, Cheung is the first Chinese girl taking flying and all that stuff. So maybe they were, some of them jealous or something, you know, with their relatives. They were not saying, "You're not the only one." So and so, my cousin back up in San Francisco. So I said, "I don't care. I don't care who's first or who's last." That's the end of it.
I was asked to be in a play for the Los Angeles Festival. Peter Sellers was curating the whole festival. As part of my research, I actually got to, of course, learn about her story and got to meet her. And she was living in a little apartment in Chinatown. So I remember meeting her. She was very feisty, and I was in awe of meeting her because I couldn't believe that I was meeting someone I was going to portray, which adds a lot of pressure because you want to do justice to her character and her story. So it was a little nerve-wracking. It was a performance artist named May Sun, and she was just sleeping. It was like, I actually played two parts. I played Katherine Chong and Anna May Wong. So I was part of her dream. And all she did was she laid on the slab. They built this really interesting body of water. And they laid a slab on it in which May Sun laid on it as she's dreaming. But it looked like she was actually floating on water. So it was really beautiful visually.
So I just remember, the three of us going to her apartment, and we were really excited to meet her. She was just so charming and just really real, like your typical really nice, kindly Chinese grandmother. She always seemed to have a little smile on her face, and I could still see the twinkle in her eyes. That little bit of mischief probably just never left her. I think the fact that she actually followed her passion, and to me that represented a sense of adventure that she carried out. I mean, a lot of people can think or dream about adventures, but they don't take action, but she did.
was your reaction to being honored there at the forest?
Well, I'm so proud of myself. You know that.
But how did you feel meeting all these people and seeing the forest and seeing your name there and getting your certificate?
Well, I'm proud of myself and happy. And also, I see my child at the store in China, and also my name is on the sidewalk, and also has the flag of China.
How did you feel about meeting these women?
Oh, I haven't seen them before. Never met them before. The first time.
Excellent.
Yeah. What do you think? After Daniel, Betty, Gary, and very well.
And these were charter members of the 99 who organized the 99 along with Amelia Earhart.
Yeah.
And these were women who were flying at the same time that you were flying.
That's right. And also, I'm very happy to see Amelia Earhart's statue.
Her statue?
Yeah.
And you also visited the house where she was born?
Yeah, that's true. I saw that house.
I remember in first grade, I had her come in for kind of a show and tell thing with my class. And so the day of, my dad wheeled her in because she wasn't really walking that well at that point, but she just had so much fun with it. I told her story of how she was the first Asian American woman to have a pilot's license in America, and how she just so enjoyed flying and how much fun she had just being up in the air. And I just remember that as the kids heard the story, their faces were just glued to her and glued to me as I told everyone about it. And I just remember her face lit up and she was just so happy, and she did everything she could. I remember she told jokes, she sang, she tried to make everyone laugh and have a really good time. And it's just so much fun. She was just a really fun woman. She just very much enjoyed seeing people laugh and making people smile.
I think of it as a traveling barnstorming circus, because they would come into a school, set up, and in about an hour, the show would begin. For a lot of the children and a lot of students, it was their first exposure to Katherine Chong. She was someone who really had to fight to get her dreams made. So I really wanted the students and also even the general public to understand this historical figure and what it took to fly during that era.
I was really inspired about this show because all in one story, you have a woman who absolutely had no sense of a glass ceiling. The sky really was the limit. She had this great passion, and she absolutely felt she had to pursue it. But I also love that she was an accomplished piano player. So here we are at East West Players, we're in the arts, the performing arts. And I wanted young people to know that in the arts, you learn another language when you learn music. You learn about other people and how they live, how they think and feel when you pursue theater. We had movement and dance in our piece. And all of these things come together. You work at it, you practice, you learn discipline. And when you pursue those interests and those passions, something can come of it. And that happened for Katherine. I thought, wow, she's this wonderful combination of creative risk taker.
After coming to the United States from China, tonight's hero was determined to earn her license to fly airplanes. She became the first Chinese-American female to receive both a commercial and international pilot's license. She was also invited to be a member of the famous 99 Club, which was led by Amelia Earhart. Please welcome tonight's barrier-breaking hometown hero, Katherine Chong.